I don't know why my computer's making that sound. We're gonna have to live with it. Right, hello everyone. So, this video is being made because Hexbug 3 months ago released new Hexbug BattleBots. I know I'm a bit late. These videos take ages to make. Anyway, everyone's been having a moan about them. Of course, it's Duck and Rotator. They look fine to me. I think it's phenomenal that Hexbug actually managed to design and release things during the pandemic anyway, so I'm grateful for that. Then again, I'm probably never going to get my hands on these because Hexbug doesn't seem to realise that the rest of the world exists. I don't know if this is intentional or not, or if someone at Hexbug has made a major mistake. Anyway, I've had about as much luck finding any kind of Hexbug BattleBots as Foxtrot did in the entire 2019 season. So anyway, this video, I'm just going to be telling you things that I want from Hexbug, okay? We want more rival sets, and we want more push strikes in the future as well. I think they've left the Clutch and Clash line behind for the best, really, because they've realised how to make things work now, which is fantastic. So, of course, we've had 5 rival sets now. Now that there is definitely a 2020 season, we're absolutely going to be getting a 6th rival set, I hope. Don't quote me on that. But here are my ideas for that 6th set. Okay, so first up we have Death Roll and Quantum. And I swear to God, Hexbug, if you're watching this and you don't make Death Roll and Quantum, I'm going to be very, very disappointed. Obviously, this is a Rivals pack that makes sense because Death Roll and Quantum were famous for their clash in 2019. Neither of them are coming back for 2020, I don't think, because of travel restrictions. But it'll be nice to have a rival set of them anyway, since they're both kind of different machines. Death Roll, of course, is just a vertical spinner. It's got a bigger vertical spinner than most, and I feel like there's room in there for a bigger motor than usual. So maybe Death Roll could have the power to flick itself back over if it was overturned. I don't know if that's possible or not. Of course, the side panels would be the removable panels. 3 of them would be at the back, and 2 on the sides. Yeah, that Death Roll is very simple actually. You just make it similar to the other vertical spinners, and job done. I don't want the front pieces to be removable. I hate it when the front pieces are removable because it's not realistic at all. The front is always the strongest bit of the robot. Knowledge. Right, Quantum is going to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say tricky, very different. Of course, the side panels and maybe the self-writer would be removable because there's no way of getting the self-writer to function anyway. Quantum, of course, would be the first Crusher to be made into a Hexbug BattleBots toy. And the reason why it's difficult is because you can't really replicate the damage that a Crusher does, of course, without leaving permanent marks on the other robots. So I think they'd have to make it more like a grabber. And just grab hold of robots, take them to the corner of the arena where you can do damage with the pulverizers and stuff. You can use the Crusher to just take pieces off the top, like the top plate of Tombstone, for example. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of potential for a Crusher here, something different, something new, and of course Quantum is one of the most fabulous looking machines that ever existed. So, of course, they'd have to be made like a grabber, like they did with Valkyrie, where they successfully took Valkyrie, took it all around the arena, put it into hazards and stuff, and I think that that's the route that Hexbug should go down if they decide to make a Quantum. Of course, it would be slightly difficult because they've made hammers in the past which don't require a lot of... They have speed, but not a lot of force to just grab hold of another robot, so Hexbug would have to work out a way of doing that. I have faith in them. Of course, if the self-writer was removable, then Quantum would be able to drive on its back with those wheels, which is quite exciting. If the back wheels were the correct size, then potentially it could drive on its back. I'm not sure if that's true though, or if that's just a rumour. Right. Cobalt and Orion is the second set that I want because Robot Wars. This is essentially the BattleBots rematch that we wanted, but we're not going to get because travel restrictions. Orion, of course, is not that difficult to make. I'd say make it similar to the Build Your Own BattleBot set with the flipper actually being able to function, which is incredible. Of course, the removable pieces would be the back, and then the ends of the wedges at the sides that protect the wheels. You know those bits there, these bits there, here, yeah, them. And of course, because Orion has flamethrowers out of the back, maybe Hexbug could do something like put orange LEDs in those little circular bits there, because they have done that in the past with Minotaur, so I don't see why they can't do it with Orion. There's definitely plenty of space in there. Cobalt, not that tricky, it's just another vertical spinner. Obviously, please make it with the wedge, otherwise it's going to have a very hard time at getting underneath anything else. There's plenty of room in Cobalt for whatever they need to do to make it work. The removable panels would be the sides and maybe the back as well. Cobalt, of course, was an incredible machine to watch. I just wanted to have more power in the disc than the other Hexbug BattleBots, just so it's more realistic, because we want to see more of this and a bit less of this, if that's possible. Thank you very much, Hexbug. Right, Hydra versus Huge, and I can literally hear the screams from the comment section going, "You can't make a Huge is too small. A man can dream." Okay, first off, Hydra. Again, very similar to Bronco. It is incredibly similar to Bronco now that I'm comparing the two here. Obviously, the flipper is a bit more narrow. Hydra is much more wedge-shaped as well. It's much more powerful as well, I think. So obviously the side skirts could be removable, and perhaps the back panel. I don't like it when the front wedge is removable, because it's not realistic at all. Of course, Hydra, famous for their rivalry with Bronco. Fun fact, they're originally actually gonna work with Bronco, I think, in the 2019 season and have like another strong flipper alongside Bronco, but BattleBots pitted them against each other because TV. So anyway, Hydra would be very, very exciting. Huge is going to be more difficult. First of all, Huge's wheels would be much heavier than that of its counterparts, so I'm not sure if you need stronger motors for that to move it. I don't know, possibly. But the main issue with Huge is, how would you fit everything inside it? Like, obviously, it's not small, but the chassis is really, really thin. So obviously you've got to get all of this stuff in there, all of the, you know, the ESCs and the motors and stuff like that, and also the batteries, because you just need to get batteries in there. Otherwise it's not going to move. Of course, Huge would also work well with a Hypershock. But you know what else would work well with a Hypershock? Hydra and Hypershock rifle set. This needs to happen. If Huge isn't possible, then Hypershock is more than welcome. Obviously, these two fought in an exhibition match where Hypershock yeeted itself out of the arena, and we were promised a Hypershock many years ago, but we never got it. We got another Witch Doctor. I was very disappointed. So if it is not possible to make a Hexbug Huge, then the Hexbug Hydra would suffice. No, Hexbug Hypershock would suffice. Right. Another rival set idea, Hypershock and Valkyrie. If we can't make Hydra because it's too similar to Bronco, make Valkyrie, please. It's a good robot. And now that they've essentially trialed their undercutter stuff with Rotator couldn't really drive well. Valkyrie would be easier to make work because its wheels are at the back and the spinner is more forward, so I guess it would be easier to drive. Another thing, obviously there's the Rotator. Another thing is, how would you fit the stuff into Valkyrie as well? I mean, like, there is plenty of room in there for the motors and stuff, but I'm just thinking the control board and the batteries would have, it'd be a bit of a squish in there. So perhaps not Valkyrie, but if it is, then Hexbug needs to take this idea on board. Interchangeable weapons. They should have done this with Rotator. What's the point of making the disc removable if you're not going to make like a bar or something to put on it instead and make it realistic? Of course, Valkyrie has many interchangeable weapons. They've got their bar, they've got their disc, they've got other discs, they've got all sorts. Right, push strikes as well. So we've done the RCs. Push strikes are basically, they're smaller versions. They're much cheaper as well. Smaller versions of the Hexbug BattleBots, made of plastic, and you just operate them with your fingers like so. And we haven't had any of these in a while, despite being promised some a few years ago. So I'd like to see this line continue because they're quite fun. The reason I think that they didn't sell as well is people kept buying them thinking that they were the RCs, and then instead getting a piece of plastic basically. But for those of us who actually know what we're buying, then I think these would be amazing. Monsoon. We need Monsoon. Obviously, they could make it similar to the Witch Doctor, where the wheels just power the weapon, and the weapon spins and kills stuff. But the one thing that they need to work out is how to not make the drive lock up on one side after the weapon bar hits something. Like I've noticed with my Push Strike Witch Doctor that when it hits something, the wheel locks up. Maybe that shouldn't happen, seeing as the Monsoon's weapon is much bigger and much more powerful as well. So maybe that wouldn't be such a big problem here, because it would dish out a good hit instead of just stopping. So, I don't know, that would be difficult. But I think Hexbug could pull it off. Gigabyte. Gigabyte is another one that I want to see. And you're thinking, how? How would you make a Gigabyte? Well, Gigabyte has their self-righting pole there, and that is connected to a chassis and wheels underneath it. And so when you push the robot forward, the wheels would spin, and just like the Hexbug Tombstone, they'd spin the weapon, except the weapon is the shell, and you're just moving it along with the self-righter instead of the chassis. So you're essentially just moving the robot forward from the self-righter, and the shell is spinning. I was quite proud of that idea, and Hexbug needs to make it, and they need to give me credit for it. I'm joking. Right, the last one is Shatter. And Shatter isn't a particularly successful machine, but for the sake of variety, we need a Hammerbot in the Push Strike range. And Shatter would be perfect for that, because it's got the little, in the weapon bulkhead here, it's got room for a little, almost like a pole, where if you twist the pole, then the hammer would come down. And that would be awesome to see. And also, Shatter looks fantastic. It's a really, really awesome looking robot. So if they were able to make that, then it would probably sell very well. Thank you for listening to all of these ideas about Hexbug products that probably will never happen. But Hexbug, if you are watching this, please take some of these ideas on board, because especially Death Roll vs. Quantum, that's an idea that a lot of people agree with, from what I've seen. So, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and goodbye.